Live on Facebook and YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. So if you tuned in today, or if you're tuning in right now, or if you're watching it on one of the social media platforms, we're going to be breaking down the one book I think every salon owner should read and give to their team. The reason being is because I do the same thing. This is a pretty amazing book. It's pretty basic, it's pretty simple to read. You can probably read it in a day. It's called The Four Agreements by a guy named Don Miguel Ruiz. And if you have heard of the Four Agreements before and you read it, I'm going to tell you to read it again and change the mindset around the book to make it applicable not just to your life but to the salon as well. Because literally, if you just follow these four agreements and you do them in your salon, it will change everything. So, show of hands, James, have you asked people in the chat if they have ever read the Four Agreements before? And it's the Four Agreements.
Put a one in the chat.
Yeah.
You've read the four agreements. Put a one in the chat.
So the Four Agreements is it's like a, it was like a life-changing book for me. And once I started following these four agreements, nothing really started bothering me anymore. Like I just changed my whole outlook on almost everything in life. And the first agreement, we're going to start with that, is be impeccable with your word. And when you think of the word impeccable, it's like it was hard for me to understand what that meant until obviously I read the book and I looked up more stuff on Don Miguel Ruiz and I realized it means to obviously honor your word, but speak without sin. And that can be translated a couple different ways. One way is you don't gossip, right? You don't ever speak negativity about anybody. You don't say things that aren't true. And obviously in salons, it's super important that you don't have gossip in your salon because it just ruins the culture, ruins the energy, and nothing good comes out of that. But then being impeccable with your word means you don't gossip about yourself. You don't say, I'm so fat, I'm so stupid, I'm dumb, I suck at hair. We're all gonna have bad days. And when you have a bad day and you beat yourself up over it, take accountability. But when you beat yourself up over it, nothing good comes from that. And the negative self-talk, and people are so mean to themselves. Like the things you say about yourself, imagine if your friend said that to you, or imagine a stranger said that kind of shit to you. You would be up in arms. So it's important that the dialogue you have in your head, especially in the beginning parts of this career, or when you just started owning a salon and things are hard, you're going to beat yourself up. Just don't do that. Make sure every word you say that comes out of your mouth is positive. And if you can't think of anything positive, then literally don't say anything at all. But there's always a positive spin on everything. And even if it's thank you for this happening to me so I can learn a lesson from it, or the obstacle will create the opportunity for me. Just get that. Just get that ability to never be negative with anything. And just that first agreement alone will change your life. Agreement number two, don't take anything personally, especially in this industry. You're going to have people say things to you, say they don't like their hair. You might have clients leave you and go to someone else. You can't take anything personal. If someone doesn't like the way you cut their hair and that's what they asked for, a lot of times we will take that personal. But in reality, we gave them what they asked. Now, what do you learn from that? You learn to have better consultations, obviously, and make sure you can let the person know you know, what above the shoulder really means. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I want to be above the shoulder, but they really meant here. Some people are just weird. You guys know that who cut hair. But don't take it personal when someone leaves your salon. Don't take it personal when someone leaves your chair, when they go to somebody else, like I said. Don't take anything personal. Number three, don't make assumptions. Don't assume that because Cindy is in Jen's chair today that she doesn't like me anymore, or I messed her hair up. Maybe when she went to book the appointment, I wasn't available. And don't assume that Jen tried to take her from me, or she was like trying to steal that client from me, because that's probably not true. And so if you could fundamentally follow the first three agreements, your life will change dramatically. But don't make assumptions, don't take it personal, and always do your best. Oh, that's number four. Sorry. Always do your best is number four. Be impeccable with your word is number one. But if you always do your best trying to follow those first three agreements and you just give every day your best, like you wake up and you're like, all right, today I feel like shit, but I'm going to give it 100%. your best is different today than it is tomorrow. It's going to be different than now than it is next week. You will always have a great career. The problem with people in this industry is they're amazing the first salon visit. Like the first time a client comes into the salon, you do the consultation, you greet them properly, and then after a couple months or a couple years, you begin to, I'm not going to say half-ass it, but you begin to lower your standard because you feel like that client's yours forever and you don't have to keep the same level of professionalism every single visit. And listen, you have clients who are friends, but you still have to do your best. And this is why I don't like changing your pricing at all. When you change your prices for people or you accommodate somebody who's asking for a discount, what begins to happen is you stop giving it 100%. You stop giving it your best because you're not being rewarded for your true value. And then what happens is you start picking up bad habits, and then those habits trickle into other clients. So if you're doing friends, if you're doing family that you're not charging, don't just say, hey, that's my mom or that's my sister. It's whatever. No, because you're going to pick up bad habits from that. So the fourth agreement, always do your best, should ring true with every single thing that you do in this career. So just to recap, the four agreements. The first one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, don't take anything personal. Number three, don't make assumptions. And number four, always do your best. The author is Don Miguel Ruiz. This is part of my hiring process. When I bring people in my salon, I give them this printout, this exact one. And I let them know this is how we operate our salon, amongst other things, right? We go over their culture, we go over their core values, we talk about our culture. I ask them a series of questions, but I like to end it on the four agreements because they now have an idea that gossip is a non-negotiable. They're out, and then they understand like the standards we're setting here. Like I don't care if you mess somebody's hair up or a client's unhappy. I do, don't get me wrong, but if you gave it your best and like the client just can't be satisfied, I'm good. Like you did your best and I can't ask for anything else. So if your best is historically causing problems with clients, well, then I got to revisit that and maybe get you some more training. But if you're a good stylist and there's never any redos and complaints, you just had a bad day, I'm cool with it. Like today was your best. Everyone has an off day. So get that book, The Four Agreements. He's got a bunch of other books. But I would say if you're an owner and you're struggling to align the culture in your salon right now, if you can get every person to read this book and you put a flip on it or a spin on it for salons, your culture will get fixed like that. So we're gonna bring in some Q&A, James. If there's anyone who has questions, open up the comments for Q&A.
So far, we have the best book. I reread and take something new from it every time.
Love it.
Westwood. I read the whole book in one sitting, and I couldn't stop crying through some of it. Some of the chapters, I think I experienced enlightenment because of this book.
Yeah, it's a while. Like it's for those of you who aren't into spirituality, like the beginning part of the book with the talk tech and talking about the Native American religion, that's where it's rooted from. It gets it's a little deep in the beginning, but as it breaks into the agreements itself, it flows really well. It's a game changer book. Yeah, it definitely will bring some tears to your eyes.
Hold on, I'm checking other platforms. 1 second.
Cool. Yeah, if you've never read the book or if you have read the book years ago, this is one of those books that every time you read it, you learn something different about yourself and about a situation that you're in. Because pretty much, I'll come back to this book, and coincidentally, I'm going through something when I go to read it, and it just usually has the answer for me. And I've already read it so many times, but like I'm reading it from a different perspective because I'm different than I was a year ago, than I was 5 years ago. And I think my sister actually gave me this book. I don't know, it was probably in my 20s. And it's funny because I'll break her balls and I'm like, four agreements, you're taking it personal. And she's like, shut up. But all right, James. Next question, if we have one.
Hold on.
And guys, drop your Q&As in the chat.
Can this book help me build stronger relationships or trust with my team and audience?
Oh, yeah, 100%. More importantly, what it does is it teaches you not to beat yourself up. especially if you're creating content, like when you said your audience, like a lot of times we post on social media, and the second you get a nasty comment, you take it personal. And then you assume that it's your type of content and you shouldn't do this anymore. And you assume that your video sucked. And a lot of times when it comes to content, you posted something and no one liked it. And you assume like, hey, this doesn't work. Well, it does work. You just maybe your audience doesn't receive information like that, or they don't like that kind of format when it comes to social media. So the cool thing about social media is it tells you what the algorithm likes, what your followers like. It doesn't tell you if you suck or not. After a while of posting like that, if you like posting in a certain type of format, then keep doing it. And eventually, people who also like that format will start following you. And then eventually, you're going to have a big following doing the kind of content that you enjoy doing. So don't make assumptions that you suck at social media. You just maybe have the wrong following for the type of format that you enjoy. Next question, James.
Which of these agreements do most salon owners struggle with, and how do they overcome it?
Taking it personal. I would say when you take things personal, uh, it it really does ruin your relationship with your stylist, with your team, with other people. And I think as an owner, this is our baby, right? This is our salon. And if someone leaves your salon, you take it personal. I have to say, I'm pretty good at not taking things personal. Like, I don't know if that comes from like just being a guy and being like being in the Marine Corps and just getting ripped apart all the time. Like, you can't take things personal. Like, me and James, the voice you hear on this podcast, like, we rip each other all the time. Like, I don't take it personal.
All day, some of the meanest things you could hear
But
someone say to each
I
other.
think for a guy, it's a little easier not to take things personal. I think for a girl, you guys don't have relationships with your friends like that, where you're always breaking each other's balls. And so I think when you encounter something like either a confrontation or a difficult conversation or just something that didn't play out the way you wanted it, I feel like you guys take it a little more personal.
Nick, I think it's really just an East Coast thing. When I went out west and I was busting people's balls, they didn't take it as well as the East Coast people. They were like, I usually fight people that talk to me like this. I'm like, yeah, if I'm not busting your chops, I don't like you.
Yeah, it's so different. I guess that's true. Like the East Coast, we are a little rougher around the edges. That's why in
Um,
the Marine Corps, we always got along with people like Boston, Long Island, New Jersey, Philly. Like we all stuck together. All right, next question.
um,
That was a good question, by the way.
what does your doing your best actually look like when you're having a bad day or you're burnt out?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. So, honestly, doing your best is it's hard to quantify what your best is when you're having a bad day. Some days, just getting out of bed and getting to work is your best. Here's the issue when it comes to our industry. When you're doing someone's hair, you're really only as good as your last haircut. And if you mess someone's hair up because you're having a really bad day, they may not come back to you. So you really have to leave everything outside of the salon and not bring any of that pain or aggravation or arguments or whatever's going on in your life into the salon because it would weigh on you. You're going to feel it like physically, you're going to feel your energy is off and it's not going to vibe with clients. So if it's a new client, they may perceive you as being that type of person. So I'm not a big advocate for taking off work. But if you can't get out of the funk that you're in and you potentially might mess somebody up, call your owner, or if you're an owner, you really should have some skills, like mindset skills to not let that affect you. Call them and say, today's not the day. I got to move clients around. Or you got to call your clients and move them around if you're in a suite or you're renting a chair and just push people off to another day. Here's something I do love to do when it comes to doing your best. Every 90 days, you should, in your book, take a day for yourself to reflect on the last quarter and see what worked, what didn't work. Get time for yourself just to reflect and kind of just really just be with yourself and be with your thoughts. In our industry, it's really difficult because we work a lot, is those people who are hungry. And so I started doing this when I was building salons. I worked 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, nonstop. And what began to happen was I just got burnt out. My best sucked because I was burnt out and I started not liking doing hair. And so I realized when I had a client cancellation, I would cross my book off and I would be like, oh, wow, I feel this is great. Like, let me just take the afternoon. I was scared to take time off because I was afraid of losing clients, right? It was a mindset issue. Then I realized like, wow, okay, I feel great today. I'm so much better tomorrow at my craft and like I'm just better to be around. I'm nicer to be around. I'm happier. And so what I started doing was every 90 days in my book, I would still work 7 days a week. I would block off, I think maybe every 2 months actually. I would block a day here and there off. And I had that day if I needed it. If I need to squeeze somebody in and just come in on that day, I would do their hair. And a lot of times, knowing that I had that day, I was able to push off my emotions that if I was having something happen in my life, I was able to punt it knowing that I had a day off next week and I could address the issue then. And so that's something that always worked really well for me. So if you're a growing stylist and you're literally working 6, 7 days a week to build your business, go on your calendar and just block specific days off so no one could book online and just write a note in there of what it's for. So you know, like, hey, oh no, I'm blocked off. I don't know why. Like self day, whatever you want to put in there, make sure you do that for yourself. And when the day comes, if you don't need it, you can look at your wait list and bring people in to the salon. But if you need it, it's in there for you. So I would say do that. James, next question.
Um, what are some examples in a salon setting where taking something personally can really hurt the business's growth?
Yeah, you take something personal that a stylist said to you, and you think they're trying to run your business for you when all they're doing is giving you their 2 cents, their opinion, and you think like, hey, they're overstepping their boundaries. You take it personal because you're the owner. It should be done my way, but it's really coming from this is a combination of two. You're making assumptions because you're taking it personal, like they're trying to control your salon. When in reality, it's just they work there too. So I think what happens as an owner, we're very sensitive, so we take it personal when we get criticism, and then we lash out on our team. We want to let somebody go. So that causes a divide between you and the team. Everything should be win-win. It's not you versus them, it's us together. And so taking it personally, it changes the dynamic of us together to me versus you.
You're like the third person who mentioned this recently. You may have to break down and finally buy this book. Um,
Yeah, if you guys, it's like $15. You could probably order it on Amazon used for like $1.50.
it might even be an audiobook, might even be free on Spotify if you have a Spotify
Yeah,
account.
4 agreements. Like the audio, I listen to audiobook. I'm just not a good reader. Like I just don't
Yeah.
like I enjoy listening better because I'm able to either take notes or really let my like mind get into the audiobook. That's just how I consume better. But I
Um,
did read this book too. It's one of the few books I actually did both with.
Kind of a follow up on that last question. What are some common assumptions salon owners or stylists make that hold them back?
You assume your team knows how hard you're working and that everything you're doing is for them. Like like if you're not like I'm not present a lot in my salon, going to make some changes and everything, but I'm just here like I'm trying to build something bigger for everybody. And a lot of times as the visionary in your salon, not everyone knows the details of your vision and what how much work it takes behind the scenes. And so your team may think you're absent and that you don't care, but in reality you're building the foundation that supports the whole entire salon. And so I feel you make an assumption that your team doesn't recognize that. And or I'm sorry, you make the assumption that they do understand that and they do recognize that when in reality they may not. So it's good to be transparent. It's good to really let your team know your vision and keep them included on, hey, this is where we're going with the business. This is where we're going with the salon because they just need to know. They need to be directed because when they don't have that direction, you're assuming they know exactly what's inside of your head. But if you don't articulate to them, then they're left to kind of talk in the back room. That's where the gossip happens. And they make up their own stories about what's not even true because you're not there communicating with them. So don't assume that your team knows what you're thinking or what your vision is. You have to articulate that to them. All right, James, last question before we wrap it up.
Um, where did it go? Here we go. This is a good one. How have these agreements changed the way you run your salon?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% they did. And I read this book before I became an owner of a salon too. And I'm trying to think of when I started implementing this in my hiring process. I think when I like did I wanted to get away from gossip And one of the people in the salons I was working at, I owned. It was they were starting to gossip a lot, and I had to like find a way to sneak something in there about to fix our culture because it was a partner, right? It's hard to fix a situation when the partner of your salon isn't acting the way you want or you need to really drive this division forward. And so I think that's when I started bringing this book into into the workplace. And I think I bought a copy for every person in the salon at that time. And it changed a good amount, but obviously they didn't read the book. And that's why I had to leave that location. But I think when I was dealing with gossip and I was dealing with some toxic people in the salon as a result of the gossip, I brought this book in. And people were making assumptions and people were taking things personal and then like who took whose client. I was like, this shit's gotta end. And I was like, wow, there's something out there that I could just give to people to read. And then we talked about it in one of our meetings. And that's how I broke I broke the toxic behavior in the salon by using this book as my conversation piece, not to target anyone specifically, just to have the conversation around the topics I wanted to have without singling a person out. So I say that's when I brought into the salon. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow's live will take place. I don't know, James. We'll come up with a time. I'll announce it in my stories. But everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe. If you're on Facebook, hit a subscribe or follow. I forget what the Facebook page does. But if you're on Instagram, you only saw this if you're following me. So if you're not, then make sure you follow me. Everyone, see you later. Have a good rest of your day.